Tajiro stares up in shock, blood trailing from his nose, breath ragged, as a colossal horned figure looms over him in the wreckage. A woman with blue hair and curved horns glares down with narrowed eyes. He grips her torn coat, demanding to know what is happening, as her claws and horns tower above him in the dust and smoke. Berlin, at night, a voice recalls that evening, wishing they'd turned down the job before it started. A girl bolts through an alley, phone falling from her hand. Reports describe 10 years of fairy tale, monster sightings, and bizarre creatures caught on camera, some questioning whether they're truly fake. She insists it is all lies, just occult nonsense someone made up. A clawed, fanged hand lunges out of the darkness behind her. Under a full moon, a hooded figure, armed with a staff, drops toward a hulking, grinning monster crouched between buildings. Tajiro plunges straight at the creature's open jaws, weapon raised, its claws reaching for him mid-fall. Blades cut through the air around him as he locks eyes with his target. Below, the alley collapses into rubble and dust. A girl watches the destruction from a rooftop, stunned, as someone runs off below. Somewhere close, an eye tracks the scene, breathing hard. Tajiro coils his weapon calmly. A colleague praises him for handling the last minute mission, calling him a lifesaver. On the rooftop, the girl feels relief seeing them safe. Nearby, a bespectacled coworker asks if any anomalies remain downtown. Tajiro confirms the area is clear. The colleague laughs, calling him reliable, while Tajiro snaps back about being hauled overseas and worked without rest. Tajiro admits he feels sick and wants to go home. His colleague notes his extermination record is remarkable for his age. A creature suddenly appears shaped like a dog. Its face mirrors his coworker's childhood pet Peso, and Tajiro recognizes it immediately as dangerous. Text explains anomalies first appeared 10 years earlier. Creatures that defy the laws of biology. Sightings piled up across every nation. Analysts studying the pattern eventually reached a single conclusion. The creatures matched myths from every culture, proving legends of dragons, warriors, and monsters were never just stories. A crisis response meeting convenes globally. The American representative questions why any of this counts as a problem. Delegates point at each other, insisting there must already be specialists trained to handle myths and the occult. Officials debate whether such people exist. One insists they're out there, prompting a call to arms for those able to fight an enemy no one else can see. A truck barrels down the road, carrying men grumbling that this whole assignment is just a convenient dump job. The world calls them exorcists. The senior exorcist calls it their duty, proud that his family's generations' old trade has finally earned recognition. Tajiro grumbles that modern weapons could have handled the anomaly without them, wondering why guns weren't enough. He is told exorcists follow one restriction, and reacts with disbelief, watching a girl reunite with her friend in the street. Tajiro notes she looks like she just met up with someone. The truck rolls past, plates reading WAOHXXX, carrying the unspoken rule to never reveal themselves to ordinary people. Tajiro complains about being hauled overseas just because his family has practiced spiritual power for generations, calling it a pain in the ass. His senior points out they're risking their lives and could use a thank you. Meanwhile, the girl and her friend embrace, one insisting there is more to it than gratitude and that no one even understands what she just did. Tajiro states plainly that he hates a life forced to kill living things and just wants something normal, slow, and free. His colleague teases that if he were free, he could pursue romance with the girl from before, prompting Tajiro to deny it loudly. The others pile on, egging him about swearing off women. The hooded girl claps everyone in for a briefing, thanking them for handling the subjugations, while two voices sarcastically chime in about their own unfinished tasks. They discuss the mission ahead, en route to the outskirts of Germany, where a village is holding a multi-day festival that has become a popular tourist draw. Word arrives of a particularly powerful anomaly that has been appearing during this period over the past few years. The creature has an imposing form matching descriptions from the Old Testament, counted among the strongest, toughest mythical beings recorded. It is called the King of Beasts, riding toward the site. The group wonders aloud whether something that powerful can really be subjugated, weighing what a successful hunt might mean for them. Tajiro is told that whoever defeats it earns the right to make one request, and that an ordinary life, or perhaps even love, might not be impossible after all. The words strike him as a girl in town yawns, unaware of what is unfolding, while townsfolk go about the festival evening. Tajiro repeats the phrase to himself, then unlocks his weapon, its chains rattling free as thoughts of subjugating this anomaly and finally earning his freedom cross his mind. He insists he is not chasing Quatre's path, doesn't care about the mission or duty, just wants this fight over so he can finally be with everyone else again, while a mother and child go about their day nearby, reflecting on it. He wonders why the anomaly specifically targets these festival days. While a girl in town shares the same question aloud, he muses on what these anomalies actually think, wishing there were some way to understand their intentions. Under a burst of light, Tojuro leaps forward with his staff raised as his weapon's chains clink and jingle, closing in on the beast as claws tear through the sky and glass shatters below, scattering the crowd in panic. Villagers scatter through the street as a massive horned silhouette rises against the night sky, panic spreading through the crowd. Tojuro shoves past fleeing townsfolk, weapon raised, ignoring their cries as he presses toward the source of the chaos. He stares up in disbelief, refusing to accept what he is seeing, asking if the thing towering before him is supposed to be a mountain. The beast's full form comes into view, marked as the strongest creature in the land. A legendary anomaly given shape. Its jaws snap open, breath rushing out. Someone questions whether it counts as a beast, certain it is neither a fairy nor a god. Tojuro states flatly that there is no doubt about what stands before him, then leaps into the fray as the crowd screams and scatters below. He grits his teeth, realizing how enormous the creature truly is up close. Its name is displayed plainly: Behemoth, the Beast King, as Tojuro faces it alone on the stone street. An order rings out to bind the creature with restraining magic, as Tojuro leaps skyward, staff raised, calling out his own name in the chaos. Stonework shatters and crumbles as the beast's massive form crashes through the ruined structure, rubble raining down. A colleague takes aim, glasses catching the light, as the beast lunges forward with claws extended toward him. He insists they failed to stop it, while Tojuro shouts that they actually succeeded. The restraint proves useless, the creature shrugging it off completely. Tojuro curses under his breath, stunned that even binding spells couldn't touch it. He freezes mid-motion, caught off guard by something unexpected happening around him. He notes the behemoth isn't rampaging or acting strange, moving instead as if it is deliberately trying to avoid causing damage to the town below. Something catches him off guard, prompting a sharp reaction as his colleague shouts his name in warning. The beast declares it doesn't care about any of that, determined only to cut down this anomaly regardless of the cost. A massive dark shape falls through a glowing magic circle, someone crying out that this is for the sake of their freedom. Onlookers stare in confusion, having never witnessed anything like this spell before, as the shadowy figures face off atop the rubble. Gripping his weapon tight, Tojuro vows to kill the creature for his own sake, driving his blade forward as sparks fly from the impact. The behemoth's jaws snap wide, teeth bared close to Tojiro's blade as debris scatters through the air around the clash. His sword slices, clean through. The beast's arms severed and flung skyward in a burst of force. Tojuro pushes the strike further, driving through the creature's guard with everything he has left. The behemoth's true name surfaces in the moment of defeat. A robed figure elsewhere declares this beast will become one the whole world tells stories about, certain that it will go on regardless of what happens here. A voice praises Tojiro's effort, marveling at his form and the strength behind the blow. The behemoth speaks directly, calling itself powerful, and tells him to listen. It reveals it was made for a purpose, given a name and a role, declaring itself its creator's strongest creation. Tojuro stares back, shaken, and vows to fulfill both his duty and his own desire to the fullest. The two face off closely, the behemoth's massive form looming just inches from him. The chained weapon locks into place, engagement complete. As the beast readies itself for what comes next, Tojuro reacts with confusion at something unexpected. Caught off guard mid-battle, his colleague spots a bruise on his own hand and gasps, while Tojuro darts forward through the smoke with his blade drawn. His colleague shouts his name in warning as the fight intensifies around them. Samone shouts a warning that danger looms directly above him, urging him to look up before it is too late. He reacts to the shape crashing down from above, barely getting clear of the falling debris. Samone questions why his blade held back at the last second instead of finishing the job, sensing mercy in the strike. The behemoth grips him close, demanding to know why he stopped just short of the finishing blow. Tojiro's face fills with stunned realization as the situation shifts entirely. He stares in disbelief, processing what he has just discovered, before blurting out that this creature is a girl. The two struggle against each other, her tail wrapped tight around him as he demands to be let go and asks who she even is. She holds him firmly despite his protests, commenting that he is surprisingly strong for someone his size, while he tells himself to stay calm even though the whole situation feels insane. Tojuro's colleagues stare in confusion, questioning where the naked girl beside him came from when she wasn't there moments earlier. They point out she is completely nude in the middle of the battlefield, leaving Tojuro speechless and covering his face. She states plainly that his sword strike carried enough power to kill her. The others shrug it off and move on, but Tojuro presses her, demanding to know if she held back out of pity when she hesitated to strike. She corrects him, declaring herself a beast rather than anything else. She grabs his arm, insisting that, as a beast, she must fulfill her role no matter what. She tells him to grab her hand, revealing she was born a beast created by God, known as Behemoth. She explains that beasts who rule over others like her must meet a proper end once hunted down. As the laws of nature demand, Tojuro reels, realizing she is the very behemoth he fought, unable to process what she is telling him. She questions whether this is truly what they've always been taught, noting that anomalies supposedly can't communicate with humans at all. She declares that her heart now belongs to him. She pulls him close, commanding him to devour her completely. Tojuro raises his hand, caught between disbelief and resignation. As the truth sinks in, all he ever wanted was an ordinary life, but instead he finds himself engaged to the strongest beast in existence. In an unremarkable apartment complex, Tojuro argued fiercely, trying to convince his guest of something unbelievable. Frustration boiled over as he insisted the visitor acknowledge the shocking truth he'd just witnessed. A towering horned woman stood awkwardly inside, clearly uncomfortable in the cramped room she occupied. Tojuro pointed at her, blaming the low ceiling for her struggle to move properly indoors. Elsewhere, an agent reviewed footage of the creature, the feared behemoth now living with Tojuro. Before the ceiling could succeed, Behemoth had already assumed a humanoid form and carried Tojuro gently. Officials panicked during a global meeting, stunned by the notion of an anomaly transforming into a human. Pressed for answers, one member cited a classified report as murmurs echoed across the international chamber. Responsibility shifted swiftly when it was revealed a Japanese young man triggered the creature's transformation. Although reluctant at first, the official clenched his fist and reluctantly declared he would take charge. Tojuro stood firm, puzzled by the sealing ritual and uncertain who had triggered the powerful seal. More pressing to him was a strange bruise on his hand that appeared after the incident. The very anomaly once feared from legend now lounged casually in his room, unbothered by reality. Even though her calm, Tojuro remained unsettled by her transformation and unsettling request to be devoured. Then he noticed the same bruise on her hand, hinting at an unknown bond between them. Even though Tojuro's protest, the exorcist revealed that housing the behemoth was an official top-level order. He firmly reminded Tojuro of Rule 1: every mission must be carried out without delay. Reassured he wouldn't be completely alone, Tojuro reluctantly accepted his odd new living arrangement. Curious and confused, the behemoth tried to understand human surroundings, while Tojuro followed, still uneasy. Peering outside, she shattered the window in awe, mistaking a schoolyard for a human colony. Tojuro scolded the behemoth for damaging the apartment again, pointing out her horns scraping the ceiling. Unfazed, she declared herself the king of beasts, justifying the destruction as her nature. His patience snapped, and he demanded she stop at once and leave if necessary. Reluctantly, she obeyed, sitting still as Tojuro repaired the ceiling and restored order. Left alone, she sat silently among the wreckage, unsure how to coexist in this fragile space. Tojuro cleaned in silence while the behemoth watched silently, her presence strangely subdued for once. Although labeled freedom, the assignment felt more like surveillance than any kind of reward to him. His frustration grew as she once again asked about being devoured, clutching his stuffed rabbit. Unbothered, she boasted about her meat quality, making Tojuro panic and plead for modesty. Determined to change the subject, he focused on preparing real food to distract her bizarre appetite. Tojuro proudly presented a mountain of fried rice, inviting the behemoth to try human food instead. She examined it cautiously, then started eating with surprising intensity, while Tojuro watched nervously. Halfway through her plate, she paused, clearly impressed by the taste and texture of the dish. Eyes shining, she held out her plate, asking for more while Tojuro gave an awkward nod. Soon, a mountain of empty dishes filled the table. Her appetite showed no signs of slowing. Tojuro returned to find every bit of food gone, even his share completely devoured. Even though her size and strange behavior, she remained persistent about being eaten and kept causing trouble. With supplies drained, Tojuro reflected on the burden she brought into his once quiet life still. He admitted she enjoyed his cooking and at least gave him her attention. Smiling faintly, he acknowledged her presence with a laugh. She truly was something else entirely. While staring at empty shelves, Tojuro questioned what kind of food anomalies would even prefer. Unexpectedly, Quatre appeared nearby, revealing he'd been staying close, perhaps too close for Tojuro's comfort. Tojuro admitted he was buying food again because she gazed disappointed after finishing everything. Back home, he started wondering if she might not be evil, just misunderstood. If communication worked with her, maybe other anomalies could understand humans too if someone simply tried. Tojuro proposed an alternative to conflict, believing peaceful interaction with anomalies might be possible. Quatre warned him, reminding that anomalies remain powerful threats despite any kindness shown. Doubt crept in as Quatre emphasized how easily they could turn violent without warning. He cautioned Tojuro not to grow complacent, especially if the behemoth regained her original size. Even though the warnings, Tojuro gazed at his mark, still convinced she wasn't truly evil inside. Abruptly, a bright flare surged from Tojuro's hand, catching both him and Quatre off guard. A warning activated, alerting him he'd been too far from the subject for over 10 minutes. Confused and panicked, he realized the strange mark was speaking and possibly tracking Behemoth. As the building trembled, they called her name, unsure if an earthquake or something worse had begun. Rushing outside, Tojuro spotted gathering crowds, all staring at a mysterious figure, causing public alarm, towering above rooftops. Behemoth reverted to her original form, shocking Tojuro and alarming the neighborhood. Behemoth suddenly grew to an enormous size, shaking the entire neighborhood with her transformation. Tojuro and Quatre rushed through the chaos, confused and alarmed by the unexpected event. Facing the towering beast, they realized the danger would only increase if nothing was done. Desperate for a solution, Tojuro begged the ring for help. But Quatre offered no hope. With a deafening roar, the feral behemoth lashed out, forcing them to act at once. Quatre raised his weapon with resolve, determined to prevent further destruction to the city and its people. Tojuro admitted his uncertainty, but the growing chaos left little time to devise a careful approach. Alarming thoughts filled the air as extermination was mentioned, a last resort neither of them wanted. Refusing to accept that fate, Tojuro charged forward, calling out to the rampaging behemoth with urgency. In response, the gigantic creature leapt, shaking the ground and forcing nearby civilians to flee for safety. Buildings collapsed while Quatre urged Tojuro to retreat. Panic spread as damage escalated beyond control. Ignoring the danger, Tojuro called with everything he had, hoping his voice could reach her. The massive behemoth halted mid-stride, her destructive path suddenly interrupted by an unexpected moment of stillness. Everyone stared in disbelief. Her rampage had stopped, and she now stood calmly before them. Abruptly, Quatre noticed a strange distortion in the sky and pointed upward, warning Tojuro of another threat. Startled by the sudden shift above, Tojuro and Quatre braced themselves for what was coming. Dark silhouettes swarmed the sky, countless anomalies drawn inexplicably to Behemoth's presence. More grotesque creatures emerged from every direction, surrounding them and converging tightly around the beast. Confusion grew as Quatre questioned whether Behemoth herself was summoning the gigantic horde. Tojuro realized the truth: these powerful anomalies posed a threat far greater than expected. Tojuro froze, stunned by Behemoth's sudden transformation into her calm, human-like form. Without hesitation, she struck a nearby anomaly, sending it crashing through rubble and debris. Fragments scattered mid-air as Behemoth followed a memory etched from the young man's voice. Recalling his plea, she prioritized protecting human dwellings, vowing not to let them fall. With glowing eyes, she rose again, this time fully aware of her purpose. Behemoth unleashed a violent spin, clearing the battlefield with a massive shockwave of force. Once the threat was neutralized, her form started reverting, guided by automated transformation protocols. Tojuro smiled proudly, believing his efforts helped drive the anomalies away and protect Behemoth. In her restored state, she stood calmly though, as always, without concern for modesty. Quietly, Quatre handed over clothes, his face blank as Tojuro dealt with the usual embarrassment. Quatre reflected on the situation, surprised that the contract's conditions had truly been met. Tojuro gazed up at Behemoth, uncertain about what came next after such a chaotic event. Reports confirmed property damage, but miraculously, there were no civilian casualties across the affected zone. Government officials discussed containment, viewing Behemoth's presence as a rare and strategic opportunity. Some speculated the young man might control her, a potential asset if properly managed. Officials debated what controlling Behemoth truly meant, unsure how such power could be managed. One proposed a bold idea: if she loved him, her loyalty might follow naturally. Others teased the suggestion, but the logic remained: emotions could tame even beings like her. Tojuro, now calmer, believed proactive steps were necessary to prevent future disasters like this one. He trusted that understanding anomalies might begin with simply talking to them. Behemoth confirmed her role, exhausted yet willing to move forward with their new direction. Tojuro realized that if emotions could prevent violence, it might restore normalcy to their lives. The next mission was silently assigned: test the limits of love as a bond. However, Tojuro sensed his peaceful future slipping further with every strange new responsibility. The state completed its restoration efforts. Officials informed Tojuro and Behemoth they could resume daily life. Although surprised by the leniency, Tojuro accepted the outcome. The official left, urging them to report problems. Doubt lingered in Tojuro's mind. He struggled to understand the decisions shaping their unusual living arrangement. Caution filled his words as he warned Behemoth, yet deep down, he hoped they'd grow closer. Later, curiosity turned to delight as they explored Chinatown's streets, momentarily forgetting the tension between them. Behemoth reacted with sudden excitement the moment Tojuro mentioned Chinatown, catching him off guard. Her intense expression and gleaming eyes revealed a deep craving he hadn't anticipated before. Later, Tojuro reflected on her behavior. An idea formed: maybe sharing food could build trust. Determined, he proposed the plan to Quatre, claiming his bond with Behemoth was growing stronger. Quatre laughed, but Tojuro's resolve wavered. Doubt crept in as he questioned his own efforts. Quatre received a sudden call, prompting a shift in Tojuro's expression from concern to curiosity. The caller revealed himself as Kamanuma, president of Exor's Japan, requesting to speak with Tojuro directly. Tojuro was shocked by the directive: he must treat Behemoth with utmost care and hospitality. Support was unanimous. Kamanuma emphasized that building rapport with Behemoth could lead to greater cooperation. Tojuro agreed. If she felt welcome through a fun tour, maybe she'd protect the city herself. Tojuro received clear instructions: guide Behemoth, show her the city's charm, and build rapport. The president insisted it be more than a mission. Tojuro should win her heart. No standing in Chinatown, Behemoth questioned the word date. While Tojuro braced for chaos, crowds surrounded them. Tension spiked. He silently admitted this challenge felt tougher than fighting creatures. Worries built up. Having no social experience, Tojuro felt unprepared for anything resembling a date. Behemoth drew attention in her new outfit, custom made for the occasion. Onlookers whispered in awe. Tojuro admired her silently. She gazed confident, elegant, completely comfortable in human clothes. Fueled by determination, he studied maps and guides, ready to give her the best experience. He caught up beside her, explaining his efforts to prepare thoroughly for the outing. Together, they browsed the map. Behemoth listened while Tojuro eagerly pointed out the first destination. Behemoth picked up a scent and moved rapidly, leaving Tojuro struggling to keep up. He tried suggesting sightseeing plans, but she remained focused on her own pace and interests. Before he could get lost, she suddenly pulled him close without hesitation. Behemoth explained her reasoning: crowds were thick, and Tojuro's short stride made him easy to lose. Confidently, she offered her body for support, while Tojuro panicked under the weight of her words. They moved hand in hand through the crowd, drawing attention and confused assumptions from strangers. Tojuro realized the awkwardness of the situation, struggling with the reality of physical contact. Panic set in as he questioned how to properly hold hands without making things strange. He tried to rationalize it: just an escort, but the situation kept escalating in his mind. Even though their calm pace, discomfort overwhelmed him. His thoughts spiraled while Behemoth remained completely unfazed. Behemoth devoured every snack she found, leaving Tojuro unsure if this still counted as escorting. Amid the bustle, she paused. Something about the peaceful crowd caught her attention deeply. The variety of flavors and aromas fascinated her, stirring emotions she rarely expressed. She admitted her past getting close always led to destruction, no matter her intention. For the first time, she revealed that her gigantic form had kept her distant and unseen. Tojuro stood silently, hearing Behemoth admit she never meant to harm anyone by existing. He responded, honestly calling her a good person, catching her completely off guard. Looking back, he realized her behavior had always been careful. Even during conflict, still, Behemoth couldn't ignore her past, questioning whether she could be seen as anything but dangerous. Their eyes met. No words followed, but a quiet understanding slowly started to form. Behemoth softly echoed the words, still surprised someone called her a good person. With a gentle smile, she told Tojuro he had granted her wish, making him kind too. As they moved together, she expressed openness to returning one day, leaving Tojuro stunned. From a distance, Quattro observed their interaction with quiet satisfaction and thoughtful curiosity. Behind his glasses, he considered the possibility, perhaps this emotional bond could control a creature's power. Behemoth's warm smile completely disarmed Tojuro, leaving him stunned and blushing uncontrollably. Flustered, he gave an overly bashful response, confusing the observer who expected the opposite dynamic. Quattro watched in disbelief. Tojuro's behavior gave the impression that he was the one being tamed. Embarrassed, Tojuro brushed it off awkwardly, unaware of how transparent his feelings had become. Meanwhile, unseen threats whispered in the dark Behemoth's presence had drawn dangerous attention once again. As Tojuro and Behemoth moved together, hidden enemies whispered dark intentions from the surrounding shadows. An old report surfaced discussing mysterious links between anomalies and ancient mythology across regions. Battles between gigantic beings mirrored scenes from forgotten legends, stirring curiosity among scholars and fighters alike. Some theorized these anomalies mimicked mythic forms through unknown means, echoing legendary creatures from lore. Quattro eagerly read another intricate volume, while Tojuro observed with mild confusion and amusement. Beyond stories, those books held tactics for defeating the beast's knowledge hidden in fairy tales. Tojuro hesitated at Quattro's suggestion, unsure why defeating anomalies should even be necessary. Their discussion shifted focus when Quattro brought up Behemoth, hinting at Tojuro's growing interest in her. A sudden encounter in the bathroom left him stunned, catching Behemoth in an unexpected state. Quattro offered another book, proposing it might reveal Behemoth's preferences, behavior, or emotional tendencies. Research revealed that anomalies change forms through unknown power-gathering information became an urgent priority. Strange shadowy figures crept through vents, their presence suggesting an unknown purpose and deeper mystery. While Behemoth bathed, a lurking threat observed, raising questions about the nature of anomalies. Unexpectedly, bizarre creatures burst in, shouting their violent objective to eliminate Behemoth completely. Tojuro and Quattro heard the noise. At once, alert as the disturbance grew louder nearby. Confronting the chaos, they found Behemoth standing tall, defiant, and unshaken by the ambush. Behemoth shielded Tojuro from the attack, launching a powerful kick while keeping him close. They crashed to the floor, with Behemoth landing heavily on top, leaving Tojuro pinned beneath. Rising up, she remained calm and composed, while Tojuro struggled to breathe under the weight. Reacting rapidly, he handed her a towel, insisting she cover herself in the tense moment. Once calm returned, the trio inspected the scene, identifying the attackers as goblin-type anomalies. Tojuro compared the goblins before him with bestiary references, puzzled by their comically different appearance. Even though their odd look, the creatures matched folklore as weak, mischievous beings rarely considered threats. Quattro noted that attacks on humans were nearly unheard of, raising concern about their real target. Behemoth concluded the intended victim wasn't human at all, but likely an anomaly like herself. Determined, she vowed retribution for dragging Tojuro into danger, offering no mercy to their enemies. Behemoth declared that their enemies had trespassed into the Beast King's domain, promising swift destruction. Although powerful, she regretted the chaos. Her mere presence seemed to bring to others. Before she could act, Tojuro stepped in, urging her to hold back her strength. With resolve, he volunteered to handle the situation himself, halting her rising fury. Tojuro requested Quattro's book, determined to try something new based on gathered knowledge. Tojuro flipped through the bestiary pages, searching for the section on goblins. He recalled Quattro's earlier words, legends sometimes contain strategies to counter mythical threats. Locating the right page, he called Behemoth's attention, ready to put a plan into action. Working together, they hurled various objects based on the reference, executing an improvised countermeasure. Caught off guard, the goblins reacted in shock as the debris scattered around them. The goblins started to shout less aggressively, shifting their behavior from hostility to confusion. Surprisingly, they started cleaning up, mimicking actions described in the old legends. Tojuro explained that goblins were once seen as household spirits before becoming feared creatures. An old storybook supported the idea certain goblins preferred chores over conflict, as folklore described. The unorthodox plan succeeded, impressing Quattro and confirming myth-based tactics could actually influence anomalies. One by one, the goblins started chanting, "Clean up," sweeping and tidying the entire room. Tojuro praised their efforts, impressed by how rapidly they completed the cleaning. As a reward, he handed out snacks, thanking them sincerely for their unexpected cooperation. Cheerful and satisfied, the goblins celebrated their treats, their hostility entirely gone, while Behemoth observed in silence. Tajuro smiled, recognizing the peaceful outcome they achieved together. Tajuro stretched with relief, satisfied that everything ended without serious consequences. He reassured Behemoth, reminding her that no harm came to anyone and she could stay. Behemoth gazed at him silently, her expression shifting with quiet realization. She understood he was sincerely trying to fulfill her wish, deeply moved by his kindness. Without a word, she leaned closer, calmly resting against him with newfound trust. Tajuro panicked as Behemoth's tail caught him off guard in a sudden, awkward moment. She remained unfazed, casually asking about dinner, ignoring his flustered reaction entirely. Meanwhile, others questioned why anomalies like goblins would target one of their own, specifically Behemoth. From a distant observation room, her presence was silently monitored by a hidden council. Even though outward calm, one observer voiced concern, warning that Tajuro might be in serious danger. An urgent voice warned that creatures possessed devastating powers beyond anything humans could match. One massive beast launched an attack, its destructive force shaking the battlefield without hesitation. Agents responded at once, using calculated force to suppress the rampaging anomaly with precision. Behind-the-scenes officials agreed it was time to enlist stronger, more capable operatives. Their decision summoned professional anomaly killers, warriors trained to confront threats without mercy or restraint. Shouts echoed across the forest as villagers spotted a gigantic figure approaching through the heavy rain. Panic spread rapidly when the giant creature entered the village, tearing rooftops apart without hesitation. Fleeing crowds left behind a confused beast who muttered regrets while watching terrified humans vanish again. Kneeling alone in smoke, the creature reached out, begging for someone to acknowledge its presence. In a sudden shift, Behemoth lay beside Tajuro, vulnerable and yearning for closeness beyond destruction. Dark clouds gathered overhead, signaling another sudden downpour over the quiet, restless town. Tajuro rushed out, shouting in frustration, forced to abandon Behemoth just when she needed him. Arguments flared as Behemoth resisted ditch duty, afraid separation from Tajuro would trigger her transformation. Meanwhile, Quattro strolled through the rain, marveling at Japan's bookshops, unaware of what waited nearby. Spotting Behemoth alone, Quattro paused, surprised by her unusual appearance and quiet, unreadable expression. Dragging a shovel, Tajuro trudged through rain, frustrated by the task and Behemoth's absence. Behemoth leaned over the railing, irritated, while Quattro observed her clear concern for Tajuro's return. Noticing her unusual behavior, Quattro considered it a positive change, though perhaps too sudden to trust. With a cheerful grin, he offered her a book, proudly calling it part of his hobby. Suspicious of the cover, Behemoth refused flatly, sensing only trouble from Quattro's mysterious literary taste. Quattro encouraged Behemoth to share her past, insisting that her tale could become a legend. Embarrassed by the suggestion, she downplayed her experiences, brushing them off as unremarkable and unworthy. Eventually, she admitted that visiting villages always led to accidental destruction despite her peaceful intent. Driven by curiosity, Behemoth approached human settlements, hoping to learn more about their unfamiliar customs. But her massive presence left devastation behind, transforming towns into wastelands before she could connect. Behemoth reflected on her past, realizing her mere presence once earned her the feared title Beast King. Her expression turned distant, eyes clouded with memories too heavy to easily share aloud. Even though claiming she was fine alone, her body language betrayed loneliness formed from years of rejection. Watching Tajuro cheerfully interact with others, Quattro silently processed the subtle shift happening before him. Tajuro's warmth, unknowingly, had redefined normalcy for someone once feared and shunned by the world. Behemoth smiled faintly, hiding her emotions behind pride as Quattro observed her lingering hesitation. Quattro gently questioned her feelings, suggesting her mood reflected Tajuro's absence more than she admitted. The idea of loneliness struck her unexpectedly, made clearer by Quattro's reminder of Tajuro's presence. Unlike others, Tajuro stayed by her side, offering protection and care that few ever did. She wasn't just accompanied anymore, Tajuro had become part of her world, ending her solitary existence. Tajuro's gentle words echoed, reminding her how much he stayed close, thinking only of her happiness. Hearing her name called with such joy, Behemoth turned, caught off guard by the warmth. With the rain gone, Tajuro invited her out, excited by something as simple as a sail. Memories of shared moments surged within her, overwhelming the loneliness she once thought permanent. Smiling wide and heart full, she reached forward, finally able to say it clearly. "I'll go." As Tojiro called out, Behemoth stood beside Quatra, caught off guard by the sudden attention. Before she could answer, Tojiro cheerfully decided to go without her, promising to return rapidly. Meanwhile, Quatra noticed the mysterious markings on Tojiro's hand shifting with subtle emotional changes. The reaction fascinated him, repulsive yet beautiful, triggering something deeper beneath the surface of his calm demeanor. Oblivious to it all, Behemoth and Tojiro shared a moment of peace under the open sky. Behemoth shielded Tojiro with her body, blocking a sudden assault from a powerful new threat. Even though her size, she moved swiftly, shocking their attacker, while Tojiro called her name in fear. Quatra stared in disbelief. Her skin had been pierced, something once thought nearly impossible to achieve. A familiar woman stepped forward, revealing herself as Tojiro's senpai, cloaked in authority and menace. Her words echoed coldly, demanding ruthless extermination, dismissing any hesitation as weakness in battle. Tojiro froze at the sight of his former mentor, unsure why she had suddenly appeared. A stern smile formed as she questioned his tone, asserting control with unsettling confidence. She declared she would retrain him, while others questioned her unexpected arrival. The woman Sanko Hebi stood as Exhaus's top exterminator, radiating unmatched authority and power. Tojiro collapsed with a minor wound after another intense encounter. Behemoth leaned in, inspecting him closely. Without hesitation, she grabbed his hand and started healing it, unfazed by his discomfort or tension. Their moment was interrupted by a loud voice. A horned woman leapt in, shielding him with force. Sanko Hebi appeared, calm yet commanding. Everyone froze, recognizing the elite exorcist who loathed powerful anomalies. Tojiro braced himself. Urgently, he ordered Behemoth to retreat, baffled by his mentor's unexpected arrival. Tojiro nervously approached Sanko Hebi, trying to explain Behemoth's assignment from HQ leadership. Sanko dismissed the briefing and expressed frustration, blaming Tojiro for accepting the mission in the first place. Tension rose as Tojiro and Behemoth prepared to act, ignoring warnings about the city's safety limits. He launched forward, defending his decision. Reports confirmed Behemoth's human form was extraordinarily rare. Determined, Tojiro argued peaceful resolution was possible. He even cited a non-violent encounter with goblins. Tojiro stood firm, claiming there was no need to subdue Behemoth. She wasn't a threat. Sanko moved forward, silent but ready, disregarding Tojiro's hope for a peaceful resolution. Her cold gaze remained unchanged. His words had no impact on her hardened view. Behemoth, unwavering, declared that anomalies must be destroyed, regardless of their behavior or thoughts. Without hesitation, Sanko lunged forward. Tojiro's attempt to block her was instantly ignored. Behemoth blocked Tojiro, warning him of the incoming blade. He insisted on staying close. Tojiro refused to accept Sanko's judgment. Behemoth reminded them that strength dictated survival. She interrupted confidently, declaring no one else could claim him. Her eyes gleamed with certainty. Sanko launched forward. Her rage exploded as she rejected the idea of anomalies speaking like humans. Behemoth endured the impact. Dust scattered as she absorbed Sanko's furious assault head. Sanko watched from above, labeling Behemoth's humanity as nothing more than an act of survival. Without hesitation, she drew her weapon, vowing to end it before it escalated further. Behemoth turned, alerted by Tojiro's desperate call. Her expression shifted, sensing danger approaching fast. Tojiro reached out, making contact. His sudden move stopped both of them mid-action. Together, they launched forward, no longer retreating. They faced the threat side by side. Behemoth leapt forward, vowing to protect Tojiro at all costs. Her voice was firm. With claws extended, she declared him hers. No one else could touch or claim him. Together, they activated their full power. Energy surged as their combat modes unlocked simultaneously. Sanko, unfazed, retaliated. Her blow was swift, sending Behemoth crashing through the air. Everyone froze as a blinding explosion erupted. Tojiro screamed, fearing what had just happened. Reinforcements from the Japanese branch arrived just as the dust started to settle. Tojiro recognized the newcomers. They introduced themselves as direct subordinates of Exor's Japanese president. Sanko received a stern reminder about her actions. Unauthorized force was forbidden without higher approval. The command shifted. The Japanese branch took control, ending the conflict and calming tensions. Behemoth admitted her motives were unclear. Both she and Tojiro only wanted to protect each other. Tojiro observed a small bruise on Behemoth's hand. Her body had suddenly become easier to control. He smiled brightly, hopeful that smoother movement might reduce the damage she usually caused. Behemoth remained silent, touched by his sincere encouragement. A rare softness filled her eyes. She nodded in agreement, promising to be more careful in future encounters. A quiet moment followed. The sky above faded gently as the tension finally eased. Quattro and his group arrived, refusing to help subjugate Behemoth. Their loyalty now lay with her. Elsewhere, Sunko fell apart emotionally, believing Tajuro had chosen Behemoth over her. Tears streamed as she recalled their past. Memories of raising him made the betrayal worse. Others pointed out her obsessive affection. Even Tajuro seemed overwhelmed by her intense behavior. Calmly, Quattro suggested withdrawal. A peaceful discussion would be more productive than another exhausting conflict. A sudden emergency summons arrived from the XX Japanese branch, catching everyone off guard. Worry spread rapidly. Something urgent loomed, and a new threat might be emerging. Violent waves slammed the vessel as it navigated the coastal waters of the Ogasawara archipelago. Crew members scrambled to stabilize themselves, confused by the sudden tremors shaking their boat mid-sea. Inside the cabin, panic spread as the controls failed and the engine no longer responded. A towering force erupted from the ocean, capsizing the boat and scattering wreckage across dark waters. Later, investigators reported missing persons and numerous ship disappearances near Tokyo's remote island zone. Officials gathered to discuss the mystery. Survivors claimed they were lured by a phantom island. Testimonies revealed an impossible event: ships grounding in open waters, islands materializing from thin air. Quattro intervened as sparks flew between Behemoth and Sunko Hebi, calling for a ceasefire. Tension escalated again. Behemoth glared with disdain while Sunko Hebi burned with restrained hostility. Tojuro's companion lightened the mood, suggesting a get-together before investigating the anomaly that appeared only at night. Elsie eagerly introduced herself to Tajuro, prioritizing team bonding over immediate mission concerns, pushing him forward. She insisted Tajuro meet with the captain while promising to watch Behemoth. Surprised, he learned that Sunko Hebi regularly worried about him, though she never showed it clearly deep in thought. The captain sat composed, hiding the pressure and responsibility she carried alone. The group encouraged Tajuro to build trust rapidly, hinting it could affect their mission's outcome. A peaceful beach setting was interrupted by a sudden exclamation and a flying beach ball. The ball struck someone mid-play, causing an awkward struggle with a swimsuit under the sun. Behemoth and the others enjoyed a carefree game, laughing and soaking in the tropical breeze. Mischief unfolded as water splashed, tails flicked, and cold treats became unexpected weapons of revenge. Watching the chaos unfold, Tajuro stormed off in frustration, unable to process the situation calmly. While others relaxed, Tajuro stormed off, frustrated by the chaos ruining his focus and patience. Even though his protests, the others remained laid back, joking as they watched him struggle with his tasks. Mocking his efforts, they teased about his chances with Sunko Hebi, sending Tajuro sprinting in anger, burdened by fear. He reflected on how dangerous Sunko Hebi truly was, especially toward incompetence. Yet, memories surfaced being assigned to her unit as a child marked the beginning of everything. Tajuro recalled the strength she once showed him, her presence always giving comfort and safety. A familiar voice called his name, snapping him out of his thoughts with sudden tension. Seeing Sunko Hebi approach, he panicked, realizing their strained bond might affect the group. He nervously claimed he came for her, but she refused to join while Behemoth remained nearby. For a moment, her expression softened, betraying emotion behind her usually cold demeanor. Tajuro braced himself, surprised by Sunko Hebi's unexpectedly flustered response to his sudden approach. Even though her composed expression, she internally suspected Elsie had orchestrated the situation behind the scenes. Both stood in silence. Hearts conflicted. Tajuro found her terrifying, yet undeniably charming. Awkward praise sparked bickering, but softened into mutual warmth as memories of their past resurfaced. Although teasingly critical, Sunko Hebi silently admired how much Tajuro had matured before her eyes. Sunko Hebi's chilling smile twisted, sending shivers down Tajuro's spine as her aura shifted. A terrifying vision unfolded. Her desire to devour him overwhelmed the air with gigantic intensity. Unexpectedly, she approached and grabbed his shirt, startling him into a defensive panic. Her eyes softened. She noticed his new scars, silently mourning the battles he faced alone. Even though her anger, concern lingered, she couldn't accept his alliance with someone she deemed dangerous. Tajuro acknowledged the dangers they'd faced, accepting how brutal the front lines could truly be. His voice rose with conviction. He no longer wanted anyone, especially Sunko Hebi, to suffer or die. Sunko Hebi smiled softly. Recognizing the same kindness in him, even if it felt naïve, she gently squeezed his shoulder, preparing to ground him in a harsher perspective. Her words cut deeper. His idealism, she warned, enabled threats that endangered countless innocent lives. Sonko Hebi held firm, believing killing anomalies was the only way to protect innocent lives. Nearby, Behemoth sensed a shift in the atmosphere, calling out as tension thickened. Abruptly, the ground trembled beneath her. An unknown force triggered her instincts to react. Elsewhere, Elsie noticed something unusual. An unfamiliar island had appeared beyond the horizon. Meanwhile, Sonko Hebi paused, unsettled by an aura she couldn't at once identify. Elsie and Quatra questioned the strange landmass, puzzled by its sudden appearance offshore. Unexpectedly, powerful waves erupted, throwing the group into disarray as the sea rose unnaturally. Tojuro emerged from the water, gasping, unsure if it had been a tsunami. Beneath him, massive jaws opened. An enormous aquatic creature silently approached from below. Throughout maritime history, a gigantic creature has emerged from the depths, often mistaken for land. Its attacks shattered ships and terrified sailors, as legends spread globally about the fearsome beast. Witnesses onshore realized too late someone had already been swallowed whole by the gigantic entity. Sonko Hebi rushed forward while Behemoth swam fiercely, searching the waters for the missing young man. Fury overtook Behemoth's expression as she confronted the threat. Roaring with rage and unrestrained power, a devastating energy blast erupts from above, striking fiercely at the gigantic threat beneath the water. Before impact, Sonko Hebi intervenes and throws her weapon, preventing Behemoth from unleashing full destruction. Accusations explode between them. Logic clashes with emotion, as the young man's fate remains uncertain inside. Warning of greater danger, Sonko Hebi urges restraint. Others will die if chaos continues recklessly unchecked. Without hesitation, she dives deep, determined to confirm Tifejurfei's survival before any final blow lands. Behemoth and Sonko Hebi scan the water nervously, unsure whether the young man survived the earlier chaos. Abruptly, a response reaches them. Tojoro's voice echoes, shocking both women with the possibility of contact. Clinging to life, Tojoro confirms he is alive, giving hope to those waiting helplessly above. Sonko Hebi begs for restraint, though tempers flare. Emotions clash as motives remain misunderstood between them. Trapped inside the beast, Tojuro assesses his grim situation, realizing exactly where he's ended up. Tojuro finds other survivors trapped with him, confirming the beast's belly holds more than just him. Behemoth and Sonko Hebi realize the truth. These are victims from the earlier boat incident. With urgency, Behemoth commits to rescuing them, making a direct assault now completely impossible. Tojuro pleads for a plan, hoping the beast can be subdued without inflicting serious damage. Doubt spreads. Restraining such a massive creature unharmed seems hopeless until Behemoth notices something and hesitates. Behemoth dives with purpose, heading straight toward the beast's body while Sonko Hebi watches closely. Even though the pain, she strikes again, pushing herself past exhaustion to protect those still inside. Breathing hard, she insists on saving Tojuro, reminding everyone he's still calling out for help. Sonko Hebi hesitates, questioning her assumptions. This creature is risking herself for someone else's life. Finally convinced, she accepts the truth and proposes a plan to carry out the rescue. Sonko Hebi takes command of the situation, making clear that Behemoth must follow her lead precisely. Although still harboring resentment, she acknowledges Behemoth's effort and questions the sincerity behind her change. Even though distrust, Sonko Hebi gives her a chance, placing faith in Behemoth for the young man's sake. With the plan in motion, both women move decisively, targeting the beast to execute their strategy. Grinning with determination, Sonko Hebi braces herself for chaos, ready to see the plan through. Tojuro watches in surprise as Behemoth launches forward, unleashing a powerful earth-shaking punch. The impact forces the beast to vomit its captives, sending everyone flying through the air. On cue, Elsie activates her technique, electrocuting the creature to ensure it stays down temporarily. Tojuro bursts from the water, gasping for breath as his name is called from afar. Safely ashore, the survivors collapse in relief, grateful the desperate plan ended in success. Behemoth rushes toward Tojuro, relieved he's conscious, her voice trembling as she reaches out to him. Without hesitation, she pulls him into a tight embrace, overwhelmed with emotion after the chaotic ordeal. Tojuro suddenly remembers the sea serpent, asking about its status while scanning the shoreline anxiously. On the beach, the giant creature lies motionless but alive, its massive form still unsettling. While others debate its fate, Tojuro silently weighs the risk, aware of the looming consequences. Tojuro stands firm, refusing to kill the serpent, determined to find another solution despite pressure. While others observe, Sonko Hebi grows suspicious of the strange mark tied to his power. Behemoth approaches the beast with purpose, choosing to subdue it gently without ending its life. The mysterious ring activates, responding to Tojuro's will and initiating an unknown command sequence. System protocols engage, revealing the beast's ancient origin as a prehistoric sea dueler now corrected. Tojuro watches as the system detects mental risks linked to the serpent's presence and begins erasure. Behemoth awaits the final correction, unsure how the transformation will conclude for the massive creature. In a flash, the terrifying beast is reduced to an unexpectedly harmless seal. Everyone gathers around the new form, surprised but relieved as the optimization process finishes peacefully.